Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfalla.
And Ray Alfalla is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR GT3's iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Good evening, iRacers. Welcome to Apex Racing TV and our coverage of the FindingSpeed GT3 League. We're here today from the classic American circuit, Road America, in the heart of the Midwestern United States in Wisconsin, from all the way from Hungary in the heart of Europe last weekend. So it'll be great to see how the GT3 class is going to be getting on here today. Lee Thompson bringing you commentary alongside Dane Baird and Samulu Kumo on production. If you haven't been following the rounds so far, this is round 3 of the season. So yeah, we're at Road Atlanta 4 weeks ago, then Hungary, as I said, 2 weeks ago, and here we are at Road America for round 3. And it looks like we're going to have another cracker of a race with the guys having 10 minutes left in their current practice session and just a second between the top 10 cars. And in fact, both gold, silver and bronze classes all within that top 10, all within that 1 second pace from the top runner currently, Tom Dadswell, who we can see on the timing screen on the left there and indeed on screen. So evening, Dane. Yeah, good to be back on FindingSpeed for our bi-weekly broadcast for the series. Like I say, we've had a cracker for the first 2. Should be another good one here from Road America.
Yeah, good to be back on the series here at Road America. It's a very interesting circuit. We don't see it, well actually we see it very often. It's one of the most commonly used circuits in league racing across the iRacing service. GT3 cars, they tend to go pretty well around here, pretty quick in these GT machines. We've got a lot of drivers out on the circuit as well, so it should make for some good racing. The starts are usually not the cleanest at Road America. The drivers have been doing pretty well so far this season of keeping it very clean, so hopefully they can continue that here at probably the trickiest start to a race, maybe other than Road Atlanta. They did pretty well there, so fingers crossed.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you that it does tend to be tricky at the start here at Road America. I mean, what do you put that down to, Dane? I mean, we've got turns 1 and, well, I was going to say 1 and 2, but like typical American naming convention to the circuit, it's kind of turns 1 and 3 are both like medium speed corners, not really much of a braking zone, and then they have that long run down into turn 5 for their first big stop. I guess that they just almost have too much time at the start before they have that one big stop on the brakes, and then they might have got themselves all in a bit of a muddle. Dane's just struggling with his mic right now, but yeah, we'll come back to his thoughts on that in a few minutes. That gives me a chance just to mention our sponsor of the season for this FindingSpeed GT3 League, Asetek SimSports. Asetek SimSports Invicta pedals are for the competitive gamer and a racing enthusiast who wants an immersive sim racing experience. The Invicta pedals have a hydraulic brake cylinder and a proper clutch point with differentiate from other manufacturers by having a true life feel and intuitive setup, all to give you the best and most realistic racing experience of driving on a real circuit. So you can find out more about them at aseteksimsports.com. Also joining the sponsorship for the series is Apex Racing Academy. Apex Racing Academy provides data packs for 29 different cars following the official series of the series that those cars compete in on the iRacing platform. That includes setups, track guides, integration with virtual racing school, group coaching sessions, and direct access to coaches for Q&A as well. You can find out more about them at apexracingac.com. So with 5 minutes left in practice, I think, Dane, we've got you back again. I was just saying to the guys about, that tricky start you were mentioning before. I mean, why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think I am back now. I had a couple of mic issues, but I'm back now. And yeah, the start, it's because of the wall. Mostly the wall on the inside, the pit wall. It's very close to the track surface, basically on the white line. There's nothing separating the track from the rest of the circuit. So it's very narrow, heading down in towards turn 1. And then turn 1's quite an open corner. You can take pretty good speed through there, and it invites side by side, especially near the start of the race. But the problem then is you've got a bunch of drivers going side by side, very little runoff on the outside, no runoff at all on the inside, and it sort of just bottlenecks with all the cars going through there, and it can be very tricky to get everyone through there cleanly. And if one person does just lose the rear end a bit, or there is a slight bit of contact, it can really snowball into a big pile.
Yeah, and as we were on board there with Benjamin Warburton, we had a great view of exactly that braking zone you were talking about as it narrows in and filters into that tight left-hander. I mean, Road America, another good classic kind of circuit. We don't have huge runoffs. We've got grass on the edge of the track, and its kind of key feature, if you like, is it really does follow the landscape of the surrounding area with dips and hills, and it's really a cracking circuit to drive on. Yeah, there's a couple of real tricky sections. I dare say the kink that is just coming up for the guys on screen momentarily. We're going to see a couple of people have a little moment there, running a bit wide and out onto the grass. It's pretty much flat in most cars, but depending on, fuel load, are you in draft with dirty air and right on cue? Thank you very much, car spinning in front to show how tricky it is through that kink. You can get issues just running a little bit wide there, and it's so high speed that you're just praying then that you're not collecting a whole multitude of cars behind. So if you're new to this series, we've got 3 different driver classes operating in the same race here. You can see those identified on the timing tower on the left. So we have the Pro Gold class, Pro Silver and Pro Bronze, and we can see at the minute that the top 4 spots in the standings are locked out by those Pro Gold drivers. Tom Dadswell, currently at the top, actually has been taking victory so far in both of our previous rounds. Let's have a quick look at the current championship standings whilst we've got a few minutes left of practice, and we can just confirm where we're up to on those. So Tom Dadswell, as I said, with those 2 wins out of 2 so far, is leading the Pro Gold standings, 83 points over Jussi Kataya with 72. So Jussi's been giving him a good run for his money, particularly in the last race, getting a strong second position. Jensen Agensensen in third, with Mika Makavara fourth, Stephen Broomfield in fifth in Pro Gold. Then for Pro Silver class, we've got Dara Edgenson's brother of Jensen, who we just mentioned a second ago, leading Indy Autosport 1-2 in the Pro Silver class over Tom Brown. Then we've got Steen van Nien, Anthony Beck and Dan Carter in the top 5 there. It's looking particularly close for sort of the top 4 spots, isn't it? 70 points first and 65 for fourth. So that's going to continue to be tight throughout the season, I'm sure. And in the Pro Bronze class, Timothy Bray took the win last time out over Luke Davis when we were at Hungary. Really had kind of an interesting battle in the middle of the race, if I remember correctly, and we can see it super close in Pro Bronze as well. So Timothy Bray level on points with Luke Davis and Angel Petrero for the top 3 spots, and then just 2 points behind we've got Ed Knight and Alex Peck rounding out the top 5. So sure, Pro Bronze I think is going to continue to give us some great action as we go through. We also have got a Teams Championship running as well, so the points for the Teams Championship are actually based on kind of overall finishing positions rather than individual classes, but we can see that currently Indy Autosport are looking strong at the front, but under a lot of pressure from Race Gear and then Altitude Esports for the third position there. So that's how the standings look as we head into this round 3. Practice session is just a minute and a half or so remaining, Dane. I mean, you say Road America is a popular circuit for sure. We see it a lot on different series. As you say, a lot of series tend to try and run it kind of, once a season if they can. Are you a fan? Like, how do you find the circuit when you venture out in sort of cars such as GT3s?
I'm not the biggest fan of the circuit, but it's a bit of an odd one. Usually when I'm not a massive fan of circuits, because I usually just do terrible there when I race, but I usually have somewhat decent results here at Road America. It's not a circuit that I struggle at. I'm not sure. I don't really enjoy driving it too much. It is very narrow throughout almost the entirety of the circuit. It might not look too narrow, but when you're driving it really does feel very narrow. I think that's also partly due to the lack of runoff, and then where there is runoff it's usually grass, and of how, of course, we know on iRacing grass doesn't really do too much to slow you down. So once you do run wide here, it can be very difficult to actually get back to the circuit. Luckily for some of the corners, like this one at what should be turn 2 but it's actually turn 3, there's a lot of grass runoff on the outside, but there's actually enough that you can sort of steer your way back onto the circuit. But at some of the other corners, like you mentioned, the kink near the end of the circuit, Canada corner as well has barely any runoff. So if you go wide at some of those corners, you can really struggle to get it stopped before clattering into one of the tyre barriers on the outside. This is the only corner on the circuit, I believe, that has tarmac runoff of some kind. And then we head up the hill. Blind left-hander at turn 6, another pretty tricky one to get right. As practice ticks over, we begin qualifying. But yeah, it's a very tricky circuit to drive, but it can give us some good racing as well. You've got 2 pretty long straights here. Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's say it's a huge straight, of course, at the back of the circuit as well, and through the kink, as we were mentioning before. Again, that's essentially kind of a straight, really, in terms of giving people opportunity to try and get a run. So, like I say, beginning of qualifying now. We've got a open qualifying session, as we can see all the guys piling out on track. It's going to last for 20 minutes. And then the results of qualifying are, of course, going to determine the grid for our race. Kind of an interesting one in terms of the race guy, Dane, with the different classes out on track. They're all, same with qualifying, they're all out on track at the same time, but actually they're only really fighting for points within their own class. So if you're battling with a silver driver and you're in bronze, for instance, actually whether you overtake them or they overtake you isn't going to affect your own points, but of course it might be affecting your progress as you're trying to get up the field and get to your next competitor in class. So it's certainly an interesting kind of twist that the guys have to deal with and consider. Where do they take risks, where do they kind of cut their losses a little bit, and like I say, for sure adds that kind of extra element to it. Yeah, definitely. It can be I would try and put cars between myself and the next driver in my class. Yes. Or it could be let the driver behind me past if they're faster and not in my class, and follow them around. It would be quicker than battling with them lap after lap after lap. We see it way too often where drivers will battle it out and go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and just invite other drivers to catch up to them, because going side by side through corners, you go a lot slower than going on your own. So if you just stick behind each other single file for a while, you'll have less risk of drivers behind you catching up. So it could be that you want to put cars between yourself and the other driver. Of course, it means they have to overtake and go slower and allow you to build up a bit of a gap, or just try and minimize your time losses out on the circuit. It depends on the drivers that you're battling with on track and in your class, but it does add that element of strategy that we don't often see in multi-class racing when it's within, or multi-division racing, I really should say, when it's within the same car class on the circuit. So we're going to take an onboard lap hit in qualifying on board with Benjamin Warburton.
Yeah, and we see him going into turn 1, down a couple of gears. You really get scramble all the way over that inside curb and the grass and a bit more. Then kind of turn 2 magically disappears somewhere on that short straight, and this is supposedly turn 3. It's a really tricky kind of corner, this one. You've got to get the ultimate exit that you can, because you're then on this long straight heading on in towards turn 5. But it's a bit off camber, it's got a little bit of a tricky curb, so yeah, that turn 3 can be awkward. So here now is the biggest stop on the circuit as I head into turn 5. You want to use all of the space on the right and be careful with the exit curb on the outside there, as it can be a little bit unsettling to the car. Up under the bridge, but kind of onto the crest of a hill, down a couple of gears again, and now flat. Maybe a little lift it will be here. No, it was flat through the little kink there, and we can see the tyre tracks from other cars ending up on the grass slightly. Hard on the brakes again, down 3 gears or so. There's a little bit of kind of a camber right on the inside of that corner, so you want to try and stay as tight as you can initially, and then through the carousel here. There's a few different lines you can take. Do you kind of go tight initially, let the car drift out? Do you kind of take it a little bit steadier, stay wider on entry so you can cut back in? And now we've got the super fast kink where, again, like two times we've seen the kink and 2 big wrecks, and that's Benjamin Warburton's qualifying lap over as well. So yeah, I mentioned that in the pre-race about how tricky that kink can be, and we can see the guys really struggling already. But that was almost the end of a lap. Anyway, we then just had Canada corner, which was another hard braking zone, as we're seeing Luke Davis come into it now. Right hand turn down sort of 3-4 gears probably, and again using all of the outside curb, as there's plenty of space to you get a whole car just on the outside curb. A little bit of a crest here through this left-hander. Again, depending on the car, you may have to have a little bit of a lift to make sure you don't run too wide. And again, critical final corner now to get the best exit that you can, to try and get the top speed down the start finish straight. And as you come up over the crest, then there's a start finish line again. So yeah, classic circuit, a couple of good long straights, a couple of big stops, but yeah, lots of undulation, a few different cambers on the corners, and yeah, a handful of places where those exit curbs could really catch someone out, where you're trying to use as much of them as you possibly can.
Yeah, we did see some of the drivers struggling a little bit with the kink, and you could also see how difficult it can be, because the walls are so close to the circuit, how difficult it can be to avoid if someone goes off the circuit, because you get a driver goes off wide, they're either going to hit the wall on the outside and bounce back onto the circuit, or spin up the rear tyres, lose control, spear off onto the right side to the inside of the circuit, and then bounce off the wall and come back. And if you have 2 or 3 drivers involved in an incident, it is then very easily impossible to avoid that wreck, and we have seen time and time again big pile-ups at that part of the circuit for sure. Drivers really seem to be struggling in this qualifying session, of course pushing to the absolute limit, trying to get every inch of tarmac or grippy surface, the curbs on the outside, tiny bit of gravel even on the outside of some of the corners as well, just to maximize the speed carried through the corner, through the carousel as well. But yeah, they are pretty quick out there at the moment there as well, reaching around 2/10 off of his fastest time from practice. So he's doing pretty well up there, right up at the top of qualifying so far, but still plenty of time left to go. And I wonder how drafting might come into play in qualifying, if some of the teammates maybe gang up and try and run in a pair through the circuit. I wonder if it's going to be advantageous here. We decided that it wasn't going to be at Hungaroring. What do you think here?
I mean, definitely, if you can get it to work, it's going to be worth trying, isn't it? I mean, I guess the problem is that, as we can see from the track map, yeah, there is a decent amount of cars out there. So if you're kind of messing around trying to be line astern and find a gap and run your qualifying lap, but then actually you're hitting traffic anyway, maybe it would have been better just to have gotten on with it, run your own times, and just seen what other random bits of tow you can pick up. But yeah, if you can find the space, like perhaps Ignium Motorsport are trying to do now with their cars line astern on the lap, then yeah, for sure those huge straights, it's going to make a difference towing each other around. So we'll have to see how the guys out there work it. But like you said, Dane, for now, Tom Dadswell has stamped his authority on the qualifying session. Again, half a second up on Billy Fletcher, who finished 4th in the Pro Gold class at Hungaroring last time out. Then we've got Anthony Beck currently leading the Pro Silvers with actually an identical time to Scott Rister in 2nd in Pro Silver. So that's going to be super close as they continue through the race. And then right on cue, Dave Erdin just popping up there into an overall 6th position, yeah, ahead of all the Pro Silver drivers. Our current, I was going to say our current Pro Bronze leader, but that's not correct. Dave Erdin is, he says as he tries to find him on his list, not near the top of the Pro Bronze standings. So yeah, he had a 10th place finish last time out, didn't start at round 1. So yeah, Dave Erdin having a cracking lap, and yeah, just less than a second off the pole position at the minute.
Yeah, that is a very good lap, and it's the second time we've seen this so far. We saw the same thing at Hungaroring, where the fastest Pro Bronze driver was ahead of all of the silver drivers as well. So it's a bit of an odd one. Some of the silver drivers getting mixed up within that huge pack of Pro Bronze drivers in that, I would say, the latter half of the top 10 in their qualifying so far for them. Huge amount of Pro Bronze drivers on the grid today. Good to see them all out on track at Road America. But yeah, Dadswell, Fletcher onto their 2nd flying lap attempt, maybe their 3rd. As there we go. He's done very well to catch that one. The Centurion McLaren there, huge slide, almost 90 degrees to the track surface. It's Brumfield who's managed to catch that very impressively.
Yeah, it gives an opportunity at least to kind of reset, maybe let the tyres cool off just a touch and have another go on his qualifying lap next time. But already half of the session has gone, so if you're a driver who's had a mistake, got a bit caught up in traffic, and the time is going to be running out and you're not going to have a huge amount of opportunities remaining. But yeah, no such issues so far for Tom Dadswell, who's still got a half-second gap over Billy Fletcher. We can see that Manuel Kaya has jumped up into 3rd overall leader of the Pro Silver class. So yeah, he's right up there as well with a 2:04 dead. So yeah, looking strong at the moment.
Yeah, right up in and amongst the Pro Gold drivers there. So yet more dispersion between the classes as we have the top 5 in Pro Gold now split almost in half by one line right there. In pretty close actually. When you look at some of the times, it's a huge gap between 1st and 2nd in Pro Gold, but then very close between 2nd, 3rd and 4th in overall standings. And you've got Fletcher, Calleja and Kataya all within 1/10 of a second. We do see this fairly often when you get a massive field like we have out on track at the moment. You do get drivers separated by not a lot. That's why I don't think went faster on that attempt. Fletcher has aborted that lap and is straight into the pit lane, and we'll see what some of the other drivers might be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, say nobody's gotten close so far. He didn't have this half-second gap in practice, so we'll see if anyone can give him a bit more of a challenge. But of course, qualifying is only the first step. We're going to have a 45-minute race after this. The guys are going to be fuel limited, so there'll be a pit stop that they'll be required to do, vaguely in the middle of the race somewhere between like 1/3, 2/3. So we'll have to see how that plays out as we go through. But yeah, Dadswell looking pretty comfortable for now. And in fact, as I was talking, he went a bit quicker again, so he's improved by another 2/10. So yeah, sort of 7/10 gap over Billy Fletcher in 2nd position. Patrick Gannon in the Pro Silver class has just improved as well, so we can see him on screen right now. He's 2nd in that Pro Silver, and he's doing pretty strongly in he had a strong result last race at Hungaroring with a race win, I believe, in the Pro Silver class. In fact, no, that was round one. Sorry, so he had a race win at Road Atlanta for the Pro Silver. And Ted Bradbury suddenly coming out of nowhere for the Pro Gold class, going second overall, second in class. I believe that's his first registered lap that he did. I did see him on the timing screen floating at the bottom before with no lap time counted, and all of a sudden he's crept in there ahead of Billy Fletcher, who put in that early time. So still, 4 attempts or so from Dadswell, but yeah, cracking job from Bradbury to be P2 on row 1 for now.
That's his fastest lap time of the evening as well. He only got up to a 203.7 in practice, and he's now just done a 203.67. So he's got around about half a tenth off of his practice time. Half a tenth is what separates Dadswell's practice time to his qualifying time, but it's the other way around. He's just half a tenth slower than his fastest time in practice. So he's he's right on the limit, really. He was very close to his practice lap time throughout the practice session. He got consistently down to those low 203s, and that's what he's done here in qualifying. So it looks like he is right at the limit of what is possible in these GT3 machines out on the track today. As drivers maybe off the circuit and validating their lap times, that's for sure. They have got 7 minutes left, so still plenty of time for the drivers to get back around and set a lap time. However, I'm not entirely sure. I can never be sure on iRacing. It doesn't tell you anything, I don't think. If it will let you finish your lap time, or your lap if you started it when the time runs out. It's always a bit of a guessing game if you're going to be able to. So for some of the drivers, it might they might only have maybe 4 minutes and a couple seconds left in the session before they won't be able to finish a new flying lap. So the driver's got to watch out for that clock as it ticks down slowly. But it is a bit of an odd one. I don't believe that there is a place that you can find out if it will let you finish your qualifying lap. I'm not sure if you know about one, Lee.
No, like I say, I think that's exactly it. Always keeps us a bit on our toes at least, so we don't know quite how it's going to turn out. But yeah, I dare say that once the checker flag comes out, the guys will have 15, 20 seconds, whatever it is, to complete their lap, and then it will roll over to the race session. But we shall have to just wait and see. Like I say, not long to find out now. Just 5 minutes left of the session. Most of the cars currently on track. We've got 2 free cars who are in the practice session who have yet to set a qualifying time. So we'll see if they manage to do that before the time runs out for the session. But yeah, only sort of 6-7 cars currently not out on track. So everyone's kind of at that crunch time now of his last 5 minutes, trying to get that last opportunity. We can see Kayer there showing his pit exit in the timing tower on the left. So for the current Pro Silver leader, yeah, leaving pit lane, fresh set of tyres, and is going to go and have another run at securing firstly his silver class lead, and also seeing if he can just push himself any further up the field. He's only got a few hundredths of a second to find to move up a spot.
Looking at the gaps between the leaders in each class, so you can see them highlighted in purple and magenta on the timing tower. And there you can see them at the top of the screen as well. Fantastic work with the overlay by our producer Simuli Kumo, but you can see it's pretty close between Pro Silver and Pro Bronze, not too much separating them, thanks to that amazing lap time set by the Pro Bronze leader up at the front. But Pro Gold with a 203.24, Dadswell really setting the pace here.
Yeah, and honestly, it's only at the minute, it's kind of only Dadswell that's making that difference, right? Otherwise, it'd be like a really consistent 4 tenths between each class, with Bradbury in second with a 3.6. So like, looks good. Looks like the classes are split nicely, and like I say, to see just a second or so between the leaders of all 3 classes is promising. It's a long old circuit, this one. They're lapping in over 2 minutes, as we can see. So nice job from the guys to keep it as close as it is, and I dare say again that's going to create a big chunk of action for us in especially the opening stages of the races. There's going to be 40 cars out there all scrambling for the same piece of tarmac on the opening lap. So hopefully, as you said, Dane, they can get through those opening corners cleanly, settle into a little bit of a rhythm, and we can have some good racing. No huge incidents, but yeah, with those walls so close everywhere, as you pointed out before, Dane, it's always a risk here at Road America, of course.
Yeah, and it does vary. You can get an incredibly clean start, but then it just takes one person to make a slight mistake on the opening couple of laps, and it can take out almost half the field effectively in this circuit. It comes with the territory of having those walls so close to the circuit. Obviously, a pretty old circuit here with Road America. It's been around for a very long time. The track layout hasn't changed at all. The only addition that they've made is that chicane just after the carousel and in towards the King. And I'm not using that today, so we are on the original layout of the circuit at Elkhart Lake. And 3 minutes left in the session. I don't think anybody else can come out of the pits and set a new lap time. So if the driver's still in the pits at the moment, it might just be qualifying session over for them. As the clock starts to tick down a little bit, it is definitely crunch time for some of the drivers, setting maybe their last lap times of the day. So heading through the first couple of corners, it would really suck to get a 1x right now and end your qualifying session. They are, again, fairly easy to get here because you have the grass on the outside, not some tarmac runoff. If you just get a couple tyres on the grass, it can drag you out a bit. So very easy to pick up those off that side.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I say, it's crunch time now for the guys, as you said. Interestingly, we've got a nice mix of cars out there as normal. We're not really seeing any specific car really dominating things at the minute. So we've got the Porsche 911 GT3 R in P1 and 2, then the Lamborghini Huracan in 3rd, and the BMW in 4th. So yeah, top sort of 4 positions occupied by 3 different manufacturers. So that is nice to see. Yeah, it looks like all top 4 of the overall positions are all currently on their outlaps, so we'll see if we get any movement there anytime soon. Ted Bradbury looks like he improved his time a little bit to a 2:03.56 last time by, so yeah, he's just 3 tenths off of Dadswell now and really trying to bridge that gap. It looks like he's now entered pit lane, so that is Bradbury's time finished. And yeah, most of the guys now are now off track, and we're just seeing less than half the field still trying for their final lap as Kaea, leader in Pro Silver class, has a big moment into the wall. He pulls away again for pit lane, but he's not going to get an opportunity to get any further hot laps in. He might just go and practice a start or practice a particular corner. But yeah, we'll see now for these closing moments if anyone else manages to improve. I'm not seeing huge amount of kind of sectors lighting up green. We can see at the bottom there mostly kind of yellow sectors, which means they're not an improvement on their previous best. Jim McIntosh, maybe he's going to do something. Did he move up in there? He did move up a little bit, so congratulations to him. 13th in class in the Pro Silver, so yeah, just a little movement from McIntosh there. Oscar Sale looking like he may move as well. We can see again last 2 sectors for him have been green in the Pro Bronze class. He's currently 13th in that class, and the next position is actually Timothy Bray, class leader in bronze in the championship, so he's having a tough time. And yeah, Oscar's just got 2 tenths to find if he wants to pit him, so let's see if he manages that as he crosses the line now. And it's not quite enough. He improved a little bit on time, but it was 500ths short of moving up a position. So yeah, good job from Oscar to improve at the final whistle there.
And it looks like we are going to be able to have the drivers finish their lap time. So that's good to see. The drivers currently on a lap as the checkered flag is waved. We'll still be able to finish the lap that they're on, provided it doesn't take them more than 2 minutes and 45 seconds from now. So hopefully we don't see any drivers taking that long to go around. We haven't so far in qualifying, so I don't think we will see anybody do that. A couple of drivers still yet to set a time at all in the qualifying session. Stephen Brown, Richard Jones, and I believe Christian Faulkner as well. Not able to set a time so far, although I do believe one of them has a qualifying ban for today. That's Christian Faulkner has a qualifying ban for today. So the other two just not quite able to get a clean lap in qualifying, as no one seems to be improving massively so far on these final few laps. Still a fair few drivers out on the track, it looks like, and we're just waiting for them all to finish and see what they can do. We still have Manuel Calea, of course, but I think he's not on a flying lap at the moment. But oh, he does improve. Stephen Brumfield up into still 7th in his Pro Gold category. But he does improve quite a bit compared to those drivers around him in the overall standings.
Yeah, and one driver that we don't have out on track today is Russell Brand's FindingSpeed founder. He's just struggling with an injury at the minute, which explains, I think, why he wasn't there for Hungaroring either, which was a surprise to us. So hopefully we'll see Russell joining for the final 2 rounds of the season and getting in the mix. And Alan there just at the dead, he moves up a little bit as well. So he's second in the Pro Silver class now as well. And Ed Knight not quite improving on his previous best. I'm not sure if Clay is going to get time to complete his lap, but he is now the last car on track, so we'll just have a few seconds and then we'll have the final qualifying results and we'll be ready to grid up for today's race. Did end up with that Porsche 1-2 for Dadswell and Bradbury, with the Lambo in third in Protocol.
Yeah, but like you said earlier, good to see a wide variety of the GT3 cars being used here today. It's not just the Porsche Cup or Audi Cup of old. We have got quite a few drivers still out in their chosen machinery, which is good. We haven't had the field decided by which car is OP at the current time. The drivers all picking whichever car that they like the most, and for a lot of the drivers it is the Porsche, but there's also quite a lot of BMWs out on the track. It seems that those two are the most popular cars in the GT3 class at the moment. They're also 2 of the newest cars on iRacing in that GT3 class, so I wonder if that's got anything to do with it. But yeah, we have seen a lot of those 2 cars in GT3 in recent times, and qualifying's finally finished and we can get the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have plenty of time for the grid as well, because we can see the safety car and the cars lining up on the front straight here at Road America, so that's going to take them plenty of time to complete their pace lap. So as we said, here's the qualifying results in the grid for today's race. Tom Dadswell, yeah, kind of dominant from beginning of that qualifying session, put his marker down nice and early and finished up with a 203.2414 for Altitude Esports. Ted Bradbury then, yeah, did improve towards the end to close to within 0.3 to take second, but it wasn't quite enough to take that final spot. Billy Fletcher then in third for Lumix 24 Esports, and the first of our Pro Silver category for Juan Calleja in fourth for Nitro Racing Team. Yusa Kataya in fifth, with Dominicus Yavasea in sixth. Alan Carraget in seventh, with Scott Rister in eighth. Patrick Gannon in ninth, with Anthony Beck in 10th. Stian Van Nien in 11th, with Jensen Adriansons in 12th. 13th then is the first of our Pro Bronze runners, Dave Erdin, with Robert Lancaster in 14th, Paul in 15th, with Darragh Agenstons in 16th, Stephen Broomfield in 17th, with Benjamin Warburton in 18th, Matt Knudsen in 19th, with Luke Davis in 20th, Adam Coles in 21st, with Jacko Boschoff in 22nd, Jim McIntosh in 23rd, with Ed Knight in 24th. 25th position then is Brett Crouch, with Alex Peck in 26th. Now we're really onto the kind of the bulk of the bronze runners with Kosh Kelly, Darren Doherty then in 28th, Colin McKenzie 29th, Robert Odoms in 30th, with Dan Ocaranza in 31st, Angel Pedrero in 32nd, Timothy Bray 33rd. Again, that's a surprising position for Timothy Bray there. Like I mentioned before, he's currently leading the Pro Bronze category, so he's having a real tough time out there. We'll see how he progresses through race, see if he can move himself up a little bit. Phil Regan then in Oscar Sale in 35th, with Phil Regan in 36th, Kansas Gentry in 37th, with Carlos Espada in 38th, Ollie Morgan 39th, and then Christian Volkner, who I think you said a minute ago, Dane Wright, was taking a pit lane penalty, and then Steve Brown and Richard Jones also not putting in a time. We'll see if they appear out on track. Looks like Richard Jones is the only one not actually out on track at the minute. So yeah, 41 cars then that we have running behind the pace car at the minute. Like we say, they've just seen in the background that they've begun their long trundle around Road America. As I said, they've got plenty of time now as they work their way through. What do we think? Are they going to survive this opening lap, or are we going to see a bit of carnage into turn 5?
Oh, well, I'm not too sure. I don't think I can really bet against having a bit of carnage down into turn 1 and then turns 3 and 5 as well. The first few braking zones of the circuit before they usually tend to go single file by the middle of that circuit. But this is actually a very important stage for the drivers. Not only are they going to have to get some heat into their tyres and brakes so that they don't have incredibly cold machinery to work with on those opening couple of laps, it can cause quite a few issues on the opening few laps if you don't have your machinery up to temperature, but also saving some fuel, because they of course do have that fuel limit. I saw in another race a couple of weeks ago where the drivers were saving a lot of fuel on the pace lap, and it helped them go an extra lap on their stint. Obviously, going an extra lap means you can take less fuel at the pit stop, which means your pit stop is shorter and you gain time on everyone else. So it could be very important for some of the drivers, especially up at the front where it's usually pretty close, for them to be saving fuel at this stage, not using as much as maybe some of the other drivers might be. And yeah, fuel saving throughout the first stint is going to be very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fuel strategy really adds a good dynamic to the series. And like I say, we'll see who makes an early dive into pit lane to kind of get out of any traffic, who goes for a bit of an overcut and tries to run in clean air. If memory serves, I think last week at Hungaroring we saw two of the top guys running kind of a lap longer than everyone else, and that kind of made a difference for them. So we'll see if we get any kind of similar opportunities here again today. So yeah, we are halfway round, or a little bit more halfway around the pace lap now here at Road America round 3 of the FindingSpeed GT3 League, brought to you by Asetek, SimSports and indeed Apex Racing Academy. 45-minute race ahead of us, say mandatory pit stop for fuel, and we can see the long train of cars there all the way down towards the kink. 41 cars out on track for these 3 different driver classes. So fairly soon Tom Dadswell is going to maybe just back off a little bit more from the pace car. You can see he's kind of doing it already, give himself a bit of breathing space. It's going to be all about then when does he decide to go, make sure he doesn't kind of catch the pace car too early, try and get a bit of a break away. Generally we find the longer we kind of leave that moment where we go, the more concertina the field is going to be, and the trickier it's going to be into turn 1. So that's where we can see has backed right off. He's letting the safety car get away. The field is stacking up behind him. Is he going to go straight on the exit of the final corner here? Well, we're about to find out as Dadswell comes around the final corner. He's still waiting, still holding on. And any moment now, they're going to get the green flag. Tom Dadswell's going to put his foot down onto the bottom of the floor, and off they go, racing away now for round 3 here at the FindingSpeed GT3 League. Dadswell got a good launch, but Bradbury is under lots of pressure from Billy Fletcher. Fletcher, I think, is going to have the inside into turn 1, and we can see them fanning out behind, almost 3 wide. Blinky car in 5th, 6th position, which isn't what you want. Bradbury did hold on to that position. Fletcher dropped in behind. I'm seeing 1 or 2 cars just dropping back slightly on the timing screen, but no big issues through turn 1 so far as we watch some of the middle of the field battling into turn 3. Stephen Broomfield there at the bottom of the Pro Gold class. I see Carlos Espadada just dropping back a little bit on the timing screen, but otherwise clean Dane through first few corners. Here's turn 5 coming up.
Yeah, that's actually quite surprising that they've made it all through with a pretty big group of GT3 cars. Let's see if they're all going to survive through turn 5. It is very tight, very inviting to send it up to the inside here, and there is a bit of tarmac runoff from the outside, leading you into a bit of a false sense of security, but a very clean start for the drivers on this opening lap. We'll see if they can keep it this clean throughout the rest of the race. Quite a few cars, it seems, having some issues with connection to the server, but yeah, quite a few drivers blinking out, at least on my screen, but lots of clean racing so far. Hopefully that will continue as we've got drivers still going side by side at this stage of the lap.
Yeah, cracking job so far from the guys. Let's hope they can continue this and we'll see some fantastic racing ahead. I have seen Okaranza just dropping down slightly, perhaps with an instant. I've seen Alex Peck dropping back a little bit, and Carlos Espada as well has dropped all the way to the back of the field. So there are a couple of little small incidents back there, but overall cracking job. We can see Tom Dadswell still leading the front of the field in the Pro Gold class. Like I said, Ted Bradbury did defend in the end from Billy Fletcher, despite Fletcher putting under a huge amount of pressure in turn 1, and we'll have to see now if Bradbury can hang on to the coattails, and indeed Fletcher, of Tom Dadswell, and have them be pulled along by Tom Dadswell. Juan Manuel Correa is still taking that lead spot in the Pro Silver class, 4th overall for Nitro Racing Team. And then our first bronze runner is still Dave Erdin, who did qualify in pole for bronze. Good idea of how clean the start has been, Dane. I'm looking at the top 9 positions, and only 2 cars within the top 9 positions changed spots on that opening lap, which was Yuvasaya and Kataya. Everyone else remained in their starting position. So yeah, good job throughout the field, it looks like.
Yeah, very clean and respectful stuff on the opening lap of the race so far as they head down the back straight for the second time. And some big trains starting to form. This could go one of 2 ways. It could be one of 3 ways, I guess, although one option is very rare. Or as we get the driver in 10th place, it's Adrian's in 6th place in Pro Gold, going a little bit wide. No huge problems for the Belgian though. But it could go one of 3 ways. You could get some clean racing. Every now and then you get someone making a move. You could get a draft train where no one moves at all. Hopefully we don't see that. Or you could get absolute carnage, and that seems to happen more often than not. Hopefully we won't see that now. We've seen very clean racing throughout the first couple of rounds, and of course on this opening lap and a half of this race, so it looks like everything is set up for a pretty good one.
Yeah, I think so. We're definitely going to see some good racing throughout, I dare say. Like you said, some little trains forming already with just a couple of small splits in between. Most of our timing screen at the minute is still kind of orange and yellow, which means cars are within a second or within half a second of each other. Here's Tom Dadswell back at the front. We can see Bradbury actually gained a fair chunk on him on that lap from when we last looked. So whether that was a small error from Dadswell or whether that's just a good example of the amount of draft that's available for Bradbury following in second, we'll just have to keep an eye for a few more laps, I guess, and see how that kind of develops. But that's promising if Bradbury is able to use that draft to really keep putting Dadswell under pressure and not let him run away at the front. We've got a couple of little gaps then we can see just in the background. So yeah, Fletcher's just dropping back a little bit, then Kaya. And Kaya actually is under a lot of pressure right now from Yuvasaya. So Yuvasaya down the inside in that BMW. Has a little bit of a squirm on the brakes, but actually gets it stopped, gets it turned in. And those 4 cars now, actually almost 2 pairs of teammates I thought it was going to be, but it's 2 different red and black cars actually. Yeah, looking very, very close now as they head towards turn 5, and we'll see what kind of effect the draft is going to have, as Kataya already feeling like he needs to defend, and we're going to see any more movement coming from sorry, not Kataya, from Yuvasaya and Kaya. And again squirming on the brakes, comes across the front of Kaya. There does Yuvasaya, and that's affected obviously severely Yuvasaya hard into the wall. And I think off screen as well, I think Kaya did have a little bit of an issue trying to get back on track, and yeah, he's lost those couple of spots now as well, so he's dropped down into 6th. So yeah, it was unfortunate on that one. We'll try and maybe have a look at a replay in a couple of minutes time. At first glance it looked like maybe the BMW Yuvasaya just lost the brakes a little bit, and that sort of sent him across. And Faulkner we can see getting really tangled up here with Crouch, I think, sorry. And unfortunate for them as they try and get themselves going. Let's have a look and see what happened here. But yeah, between Yuvasaya. So does he come across or does he lose the rear under braking? Let's have a little look. What do we think? Difficult to say from that angle. I mean, kind of, it looks like the car turns across him, Dane, but I feel that maybe wasn't a turn of the wheel. I feel like that was like him hitting the brakes and the car kind of drifting to his right, our left a little bit. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that one. There was a bit of space on the outside for the car on the outside, but yeah, just a bit of a coming together there. I don't think anyone's massively at fault. There was another incident further back that we just saw the end of. It was involving Faulkner, but yeah, a couple drivers, I think 3 drivers involved in that one as well. One driver looked as if they had a technical failure because there were some very straight tyre marks through the grass just off the circuit into the wall, and then those tyre tracks ended at the wall, so the driver obviously reset straight away. But yeah, maybe a couple of hardware issues for one of the drivers out on the circuit, as well as some of the drivers into the pits for repairs after the first 2 laps were very clean. And lap 3 it all kind of went a bit downhill heading into turn 5, but for the most part still very clean out on the circuit. A couple of isolated incidents, but as we saw at Nurburgring, a couple of incidents involving 2 or 3 drivers. Other than that, very clean so far. Hopefully this will continue. But I'm starting to wonder when we're going to see those pit stops. It's going to be, the last time we saw it was almost exactly on 30 minutes. I wonder what we're going to see today. Oh dear, out of turn 3. It's Angel Pedrero who's just, it looked like, turned in front of another car, maybe got turned by another car as they went side by side through turn 3 and just came together on the exit.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. That was between Morgan and Pedrero there, and kind of, and a bad rejoin, unfortunately, from Robert Odins there, I think, really causing a huge problem from Darren Doherty. Let's hope Darren doesn't do the same, and we kind of do a little bit kind of moving forward with other cars coming. So a bit clumsy from a couple of different drivers there. Colin McKenzie getting a bad impact as well. That's unfortunate for him, but yeah, I was going to say, for Pedrero and for Morgan, yeah, whilst kind of Dane was talking the whole time, they were battling away hard very nicely, and then, yeah, unfortunately, it just didn't work out in the end. So a few issues just at the back of the field we can see at the minute, but hopefully they can sort themselves out, carry on, get their cars straightened up, and continue fighting yet again, as we're watching now the Ignium Motorsport car of Stijn van Nieren, currently running 6th in the Pro Silver class. He's actually got a Pro Gold runner immediately ahead of him of Jensen Adrianson. So yeah, if he wants to challenge the next Pro Silver cars, he's going to need to get ahead of Adrianson. And actually, Adrianson's the one that's looking to maybe move forward here. He's having a little sniff at Anthony Beck as they come into turn 1. He's got a little bit of an overlap. Is he going to be able to get it enough on the brakes? He does. Beck gives him a little bit of room. And now this is an opportunity for Nieren to try and capitalise, as Beck would have been compromised through turn 1, but he's not quite going to be close enough into turn 3 here, and indeed he's going to have to wait for another opportunity.
He's certainly not going to risk sending it up the inside of turn 3 because, of course, although they're not in the same team in the championship, they are still teammates at Ignium Motorsport. That's the pit entry, and oh dear, or the pit exit I should say. There was space on the outside, on the inside, that very quickly disappeared because the grass came through, and Dan Ocaranda stuck in the barrier. We've got another car spinning as well, but it wasn't necessarily a bad move up the inside in towards turn 1, but that bit of road very quickly disappeared, and once you're on the grass there is very little you can do to stop yourself from ploughing into the car in front of you, and that's exactly what we just saw there into turn 1.
Yeah, kind of the view we had, it kind of felt like that was going to disappear very, very quickly, and that's exactly what happened. So yeah, a bit of an optimistic move, maybe, as you said. The kind of space was kind of there to start with, but yeah, it just wasn't going to happen. But back at the front, we can see that as we kind of had hoped, if you like, to continue the challenge at the front, yeah, Ted Bradbury so far has managed to hang on to Tom Dadswell. And then, depending on how hard Bradbury's having to push, he of course has got the advantage of the draft, which is potentially going to help him a little bit with a bit of fuel saving. So it could well be putting Dadswell under a little bit more pressure of, is he going to really try and break Bradbury, or is he going to try and do maybe even a little bit of fuel saving himself to try and make sure that there isn't like an extra lap that Bradbury can go over Dadswell. We'll have to see how that plays out. Billy Fletcher, though, hasn't quite managed to hang on to these guys, so he's dropped now 3.5 seconds further back as he comes over the start-finish line there. Then he's got a little bit of breathing space over Jussi Kataja, 4th in the Pro Gold class. Before then, we have the new Pro Silver leader of Alan Carraget, taken over from Kayaya after his just little tangle, a lap or 2 ago. And so that's looking very, very tasty as well for the Pro Silver lead, just 3 tenths between them, as we can see on screen at the minute. Then a little bit further back, 14th overall, David Erden still leading the Pro Bronze class, and he's still got a good handful of Pro Silver cars between him and the 2nd position Pro Bronze runner of Matt Knudsen. So yeah, Dave Erden looking pretty strong for now to continue his good run in the Pro Bronze class.
Yeah, quite a big gap between those drivers. It's very close as we cut away. But it is still these 3 drivers here. Adrianson's just ahead of Beck, just ahead of Nealon. As moving away through turn 6 there. They're starting to get caught ever so slightly by the drivers behind Warburton, Lancaster, and I believe Erden just on the back of that pack, just behind them. As they make their way up towards the carousel now, and a little bit on the grass on the outside for Beck. Once again, teammates, these 2 in 5th and 6th in Pro Silver, so no massively risky moves are going to be made, I don't think, between Van Nielen and Beck. It's just, yeah, and of course, when we make our way towards the end of the race, maybe that changes a little bit, but a couple of drivers maybe laps. We're actually getting up to some lapped cars as they make their way down towards Canada corner. The 40th position overall in, I believe, the Ferrari just in front of these three. So lap traffic, of course, after that was quite a few incidents on the first couple of laps, it's safe to say. Some of the lapped cars now heading onto the circuit, maybe getting in the way of some of the drivers who'd rather that the lapped cars weren't out on the circuit, but they're very nice at getting out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, made his intentions very clear, found a nice safe space, and yeah, that battle now can continue. Neon was really putting Becker under a lot of pressure through the second half of that lap, but it didn't quite come to anything that time by. As you say, we'll have to watch how that develops between the teammates as we go further into the race. Scott Rister looking pretty close, just up ahead in 7th in Pro Silver. In fact, there we go, very, very close, we can see. So between him and Patrick Gannon. So I think Gannon it was that actually just moved forward a spot at that time over Scott Rister. So he's now 3rd in that Pro Silver class. And we'll have to see if Rister can come back at him at all in that Ferrari and put him under any more pressure. But yeah, for now, Gannon taking that spot, fellow Americans in 3rd and 4th Pro Silver.
We are seeing passes being made throughout the field at the moment. Looks like Alex Peck might have had a couple of issues just getting past by quite a lot of drivers in the back of the field. As looking at there's quite a few drivers involved in battles. We haven't seen too many large gaps near the front of the field, at least in the top 20 positions or so. Most of the drivers out on the track separated by less than a second, with at least one other driver, which is always good to see it. It's not great to see a lot of drivers all on their own, but having little packs like this is very nice. As you can see on the top right hand corner of the screen with the track map, the car's starting to get a little bit more evenly spread, but still close enough that we can get some moves being made up and down the field. Volkner is just behind the driver just in front. I believe that's Odoms in the BMWs, making their way out of the carousel. It does start sort of interesting when you look at the different cars. We were looking at, you were talking about pressuring Beck through this part of the circuit. The Lamborghini does seem to be a little bit more agile. We'll see now down in towards Canada corner. Are we going to see a lunge? We are up the inside, a little bit deep into the corner. Big squeeze on the outside for Volkner. They're still side by side, heading to the final couple of corners. Yeah,
like I say, Volkner just couldn't quite get it stopped. Could he miss the apex? But fortunately for both of them, Odoms was kind of read it correctly, gave him the space. Yeah, had a good go at coming back, but in the end, Volkner managed to hold on to that position. So Volkner, of course, we mentioned earlier on, started from the back of the field after a pit lane start. So yeah, he's progressing well, 23rd overall and 12th in class. Another move potentially building here between Kansas Gentry and Robert Odoms. Again, same battle, of course, just a car behind. And Odoms misses his braking point completely. I glanced away, Dane. I don't think there was contact, right? So I think he just must have put a wheel on the outside on the left, maybe, or just, hit his wrong brake marker. That's easy done every now and then. You're looking for one set of cones and actually you brakes at the next set. Fortunately, managed to keep it out wall, but lost, a huge chunk of time. And that's Odoms down into to 6th in the bronze class now.
Yeah, very easy place to go off the circuit. Got a little bit of damage to the left-hand side of his car, but I think that's from car contact, not from contact with the wall. Luckily, it's one of the bigger runoff areas on the circuit, so yeah, like you said, able to keep it out of the wall on that occasion and keep going with very little damage on the car. As we move up into what I believe is the battle for 2nd place in this Pro Silver category. It looks like Karakiet up at the front in first position in Pro Silver has sort of moved up through the field and is right on the back of Kataya for the 5th position overall, at least. And a car that we don't usually see too often being driven by Patrick Gannon. It looks very agile. The BMW is usually better on the straights, but the Audi looks very quick through the corners.
No, it certainly doesn't. Obviously, Gannon seems to be comfortable with it because, just a moment ago we saw him getting past Scott Rister, and already he's gapped him, and there's now, as you say, challenging Kayaya for that 2nd position. So not quite close enough this time into turn 1, but yeah, he's obviously feeling confident for now. He feels like he can continue moving up the field, and if he can dispatch Kaya fairly soon, as he has a bit of a lunge into turn 3, Dane, that was really optimistic, too far back. Fortunately, just barely managed to get it stopped enough, but kind of compromised both cars. We'll see who gets the drag now down in towards turn 5, but I dare say Scott Rister is going to be catching him fairly quickly as well. So Kaya defending to the inside, Gannon on the outside, Rister just watching in the background. Kaya looks to have it covered off as he can get it stopped. He can, and yeah, Gannon just, he's got the speed, he just needs to make sure he doesn't, you know, get a little bit too desperate, just picks his spots, make sure it's a clean opportunity for an overtake, and then as I was in the middle of saying, that will give him an opportunity maybe to start challenging for Carraget just a few seconds up the road. But yeah, lucky there into turn 3.
Yeah, very lucky that they didn't make contact there. They got extremely close through that corner, very nearly rear-ending Kayeka in front, but now through the carousel, the Audi with the advantage, I believe, in this part of the circuit with the mid-engine. It is a little bit more agile, same as the Lamborghini as I was talking about earlier, whereas BMW a bit more like a boat on iRacing. It does seem to struggle in the high-density corner areas of the circuit. So in the middle sector, it does have a slight disadvantage. The Ferrari, another car that we don't see used very often outside of its own official series that it has in the lower ranks on the road roster for iRacing. And now through the final corner, it does seem that Gannon does have a little bit of an edge through that final corner. It does allow him to get a better exit and a little bit more speed heading down this main straight. About a car's length separating them now, already to the inside, trying to defend for this second position in Pro Silver is Callejas. Gannon to the outside. They are going to go side by side through turn number 1. A big squeeze on the outside, and Gannon almost forced right off the circuit. Now trying to go for the switchback. This might be a much better opportunity for a move into turn 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, this is his opportunity, and yeah, Gannon gets that pass, but is Kaya going to be able to get the run off the corner and challenge him into turn 5? So yeah, interesting little kind of switch back through there, where in turn 1 Kaya just didn't quite get the speed on Apex as he wanted. That compromised him to allow Gannon to challenge, but here comes Kaya back on the outside this time. Gannon trying to defend on the inside. Can he get deep enough on the brakes? Almost Rister into back of both of them, and Adrianson nips in front of Rister and capitalizes, but both Gannon and Kaya did get it stopped, but Gannon kept that position on the inside, and Adrianson already challenging on Kaya now. So yeah, all kind of tried to happen in that moment, and so kind of almost out of nowhere, Rister kind of ended up right in the middle of that little squabble. And we can see as they're continuing to squabble in the background, Kaya gives Adrianson some space on the inside. I was about to say, as they squabble, Gannon has already gone. Yeah, he's 2 seconds down the road, Dane. And now we've got a little 5-car group all of a sudden drawing Beck and Neon as well into the same battle.
Yeah, he definitely has disappeared out in front. Gannon, he saw the battle happening behind him, and he really did put his foot down and off into the distance. He went for a couple of corners, couldn't even see that he was ever there. But with Adrianson came Beck and Nealon, so they were right on the back of Rister in that middle sector, almost trying to get past us. Oh, this could be an opportunity now, not usually an overtaking spot. A big squeeze to the inside, and Adrianson has to back out on that occasion. Is that going to allow Rister to move up to the inside? Oh no, he slams into the back of him, turns him around, and there goes Adrianson off the circuit, spinning around, facing the wrong way, and does the right thing here, waiting for a big enough gap, letting his brother pass actually on that occasion to wait until he can get back onto the circuit. But maybe just a bit impatient for Rister, trying to go to the outside. The door was shut fairly early on, and still seemingly went for a move of some kind, as now they're going side by side. It's Nealon, and is that Warburton who's tried to make a move? It is. He's got in front there.
Yeah, nice job from Warburton trying to capitalise on all the action up ahead. Like I say, unfortunate there between Rister and Adrianson. And actually, Adrianson's gone into pit lane, take a fast toe, maybe go for an early, well, I was going to say early pit stop, not that early. We're 22 minutes into the race already, Dane. But yeah, so Adrianson's, you know, lost lots of time waiting to get back on track, but hopefully won't lose too much time with the damage. Steen, they're completely blowing past his break point, and Warburton there sliding back in front of him on the exit, so they're still going at it, hammer and tongs. But yeah, it's a shame that that big grouping just broke apart there. Let's say so tight for the last kind of half lap especially. Yeah, and hopefully the guys can continue on, get themselves back together. We don't particularly need to swap it on camera, but just as a check-in, that Bradbury has dropped away from Dadswell at the front, so we were talking about him hanging in his draft a few tenths back, but now he's 2 seconds away. So Dadswell just putting the hammer down a little bit and trying to break that gap before the pit stops, I think.
Yeah, we are now just halfway through this race, so pit stops definitely are on the cards. So any drivers who have made pit stops in the last few laps or so might have been doing them as a planned stop. I think Anthony Beck and Robert Lancaster, I don't think either of those were involved in too many battles, but both of those drivers headed down into the pits on the last time by. So I don't think that was for damage repairs. I think that was just a planned pit stop, and we'll see how it works out for them. I think some of the drivers will be leaving it as late as possible to try and judge fuel saving a little bit better. It's always easier to fuel to the end of a race than if you've run the tank completely dry. Then if you've gone halfway through the race, still have some fuel left, and then try and figure out how many laps of fuel you'll need to the end. So I think a lot of the drivers will be waiting until the very last moment. We'll see now for the battles on the circuit. Big send up the inside once again from Steve Van Nielen, and once again not able to work. And like you saw last lap at turn 5, huge send up the inside. The Lamborghini is agile, it's not quite that agile.
Yeah, and good driving from both of them again. I mean, Nian just drifted a fraction off the apex really to go for that inside move, and it easily could end up with contact between the two of them, but fortunately for both, Warburton just about managed to give him enough room on the inside, and it worked out well for him to get the drive off the corner as well. 4 cars in the midfield, Dane, all diving into pit lane. Knudsen, Kelly, Coles and Boshoff. So we've got our first few pit stops coming in now. And let's see, as we stay on board now with Nian for a minute, if he can close back up to Warburton and give him a challenge now as he builds his way towards well, his next overtaking opportunity, which would be Canada Corner.
Yeah, you're not really going to get too many overtaking moves done in this part of the circuit, especially not through the carousel. And even if you do, you are going to lose so much time doing it that it's almost not worth doing it at all. So just following the BMW in front through this part of the circuit, now heading up to the kink, another place where if you go side by side, it's very likely going to end up with at least one of the 2 cars into one of either the inside or outside walls. This is the next best overtaking opportunity in towards Canada Corner. Although for a driver defending on the outside, it can be pretty easy to keep that position, because of course the track does veer to the left twice down the kettle bottoms, and it can be quite easy to keep a good line through there and just not allow the driver trying to go around the outside of that part of the circuit to get the inside into Canada Corner. So although it can be a good overtaking opportunity, it might not always be quite as simple as it seems, as Warburton into the pits, and I believe gets it slowed down quite nicely up the hill. Because of the hill, you can brake pretty late into this pit lane entry at Road America, and I think he's joined in the pit lane by Calleja in now 7th place in Pro Silver, but was right up near the front.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, Kaya and Warburton, yeah, both taken to pit lane this time by in the silver class, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on them and see where they end up shuffling out when the others make their stops. Timothy Bray from 2nd in Pro Bronze, pitting along with Kansas Gentry 3rd in Pro Bronze, so that battle's going to continue with them both pitting at the same time. So yeah, now we're getting to the fuel strategy part of the race. Say people looking for bits of gaps in track, you know, do they feel like they're being held up? Okay, let's get in the pit lane, get it done with. Do they feel like, you know, they need to clear some traffic, have a bit of open tarmac in front of them so they can start pushing on? Well, we'll have to see. Tom Dadswell at the minute, as we can see at the front of the field, pushing on kind of all race long. Like we said, he did break away from Bradbury sort of 4 or 5 laps ago, 2.7 second gap now. He's got a little bit of traffic in front of him, but he is looking pretty comfortable, as he has done, frankly, through the previous 2 races as well. He's obviously feeling very, very comfortable with that Porsche 911 GT3 R out there. So yeah, top 4 Pro Gold cars, all running still as they were, and we'll just be keeping an eye on when those leaders start making their pit stops. Here's Kayaya after making his pit stop that we saw a second ago, along with Anthony Beck, who was just behind So those guys are fighting it out in that silver class. Second and third position overall, Dane coming into pit lane on the same lap, along with Kataya in fourth. They're all coming in, Dane. Carraget from the lead of Pro Silver, Gannon from second in Pro Silver. So, and in fact, sorry, Dadswell did pit as well. I do apologise, because Dadswell was highlighted on my screen. I missed that he had pitted as well. So every single car in order, all coming into pit lane. So clearly this is the last lap, I guess, that they could do on their fuel.
Yeah, it definitely does look like that is the case. And we'll see if anyone manages to go an extra lap. That would be interesting because they could well save quite a bit of time.
What about
their
Vultner?
Pit stop compared to everyone.
I guess Vultner. Okay,
No,
Vultner's pitted.
He's straight into the pits. He did
I
have
was
quite a big
wondering, because
gap.
he didn't have to do a pace lap, right? If he had a pit lane start, he would have had no pace lap, I guess, and maybe that would have saved him on fuel, but it didn't help. Oh, okay. Yeah, he would have trundled around then. Fair enough. But yeah, the guys heading out of pit lane already. Dadswell still in the lead, then Bradbury, then Fletcher, then Kataya. So the Pro Gold runners all still in order. Carraget does get out in the lead of the Pro Silvers as well, then Gannon, then Rister. So they are looking pretty much in order, and Kaya now mixing it up as he was already completed his pit stop, of course, that lap earlier. He's come out fourth in that Pro Silver class, with Anthony Beck still right behind him in fifth. So I think they've ended up pretty much where they were, Dane. I think they were still behind Rister before the stops as well.
It does look like most of the drivers, at least, coming out in the same position. So no one taking huge risks in terms of their fuel. We saw last time out a couple of drivers not making it to the finish, running out of fuel in the final couple of laps. So it doesn't look like we should see any of that here today at Road America, which is good to see. You'd hate to see drivers coming around the final corner, neutral, clutch, engaged, and just trundling along, trying to make it to the end. And unfortunately, I think it was Stephen Brumfield who just didn't make it to the end. That is a huge moment for Kayeka, and there goes Beck up the inside. Later on the brakes is Juan Manuel, and he actually has worked out from ever so slightly. They're going to go side by side through the carousel now, and there is the gap. He could cut across if he wanted. He does now, and Beck is out in front of this of these two drivers. Under the fourth in Pro Silver. We'll see if he can hold on to that through the Kingdom down to Canada Corner.
Yeah, it was fortunate for Kaya there. Could have ended up being a much bigger incident, but he's still got the opportunity to challenge back for that fourth position. He's going to get pushed to the outside, I think, on Canada, but no, doesn't even get close enough, just slots in behind and buys his time to see if he can make an opportunity somewhere else. So just having a quick look at the timing screen again, Dadswell did actually lose a couple of seconds to Ted Bradbury in the Pro Gold class. So 7 tenths between them at a minute. There was like 2.7, 2.8 or so when they pitted. So we'll see if Dadswell was able to pull out that same gap again that he did before. Looking pretty close as well for Dave Erdin in the lead of Pro Bronze. He's just got a couple of tenths back to Lancaster, I think, just behind, yep. And so he's just feeling the need to defend at the minute, or in fact, sorry, it's the car ahead of him, so it's Warburton, sorry, ahead of Erdin, who was just feeling like we need to defend it into turn one, but wasn't close enough that time by. So yeah, through those pit stops, we've got a couple of little fresh battles developing now, a couple of different driver pairings as they try to work their way through the field. Still, here's another one between Knudsen and Vultner, and Vultner going to take that inside position, I think, and make another spot. So he's up into 11th in the Pro Silver class, and he's our biggest mover of the day, gaining 23 spots from his starting spot.
Yep, you can see both the positions gained and lost on the left-hand side, and also what the track looks like now with the track map on the right-hand side of the screen. A couple of drivers still in the pit lane at the moment, but for the most part, everybody has made their stops now, and you can see there's a few pretty large groups of cars. You can see in so the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th in Pro Silver, and then a couple of the Pro Bronze drivers. Well, I think it's Erdin just at the back of them. Quite a large group of cars. And looking back from there, they're not massively close to one another, but still close enough that a mistake could go a long way in terms of drivers getting past you. There's also another little group of cars, 4th, 5th, and 4th in Pro Bronze, and 14th in Pro Silver, having a bit of a battle heading just into the carousel now. For the most part, the drivers spread out pretty evenly amongst the circuit. But yeah, like you said, Dadswell and Bradbury much closer now after the pit stops than they were beforehand.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be one to keep half an eye on for sure. See if Bradbury can just hang with Dadswell in this second stint of the race. Down to sort of under 13 minutes now remaining. And here's Timothy Bray, current championship leader in the Pro Bronze class. Like I say, he had a real tough time in qualifying, and he has managed to claw his way up in that bronze class. He's got just a big issue though into Canada corner though. As I look at the timing screen, so he's going to lose a spot now to Reagan, and he's already lost it in fact to Gentry. And so did well to stay on track, at least keep it out the wall for Bray, but he's going to have to work hard again to try and get that position back. And Phil Reagan in that Pro Silver class will try and capitalise as well. As Alex Peck just saw in the background dive off into pit lane at the same time. Kaya and Beck squabbling back at the Pro Silver field again. So Kaya just off screen at that moment, got back past Anthony Beck. So whether that was a little bit of an error from Beck, whether Kaya just got a launch off of the previous corner, we will have to see. Kaya, interestingly, is the only car, Dane, in the top 19 to have lost positions from his starting grid.
That's pretty insane, really. We've seen, I guess it was also partly due to a couple of those incidents. If you look further back in the field, you've got a lot of drivers losing positions. I think maybe the last 10 drivers all losing positions from where they started. So the drivers involved in incidents, of course, are making up, of course, some of the positions. But right up at the front, of course, you haven't had too many of those
Ted Bradbury issue. Ted Bradbury is sat off track stationary, so he's had a big incident somewhere, but and now towed back to pit lane. So yeah, I kind of looked at my timing screen, seeing him suddenly falling away on time. Let's have a quick look now and see what happened on replay. It's going to be contact with a back marker, and now into the wall as well. Is it going to be? Oh, he's going to have a little bit of retaliatory maybe to the back marker, and maybe just calls it a day for some reason. It seems perhaps we'll have to see what happened, but we obviously only caught the end of that move, and obviously Bradbury was pushing hard to try and stay with Dadswell, and just unfortunate to both end up on the same bit of tarmac there. So that's let kind of Dadswell off the hook. Unfortunately, really, he's got a nice 6-second gap now to Billy Fletcher, so he just needs to keep his nose clean, not get involved with traffic either, and he will be continuing on. Kaya in the background having a huge issue. He had already lost the spot to Beck off screen whilst we saw it just got back ahead of him a moment ago. Puts a wheel on the grass, rear steps out from him, tries to catch it, nothing doing, hard into the wall, and that is going to be a very long trundle back to pit lane with the engine smoking away as well. And there we go, engine gave up straight away. Is out of this race unless he's still got a faster available.
Not great to see a couple of strings of retirements. I think it might have just been terminal damage that caused Dadsbury to go off and retire from the race. I think that slam to the rear, it did look very typical.
Yeah, it kind of didn't look like that huge of a hit though, right? So
it just looked typical of when you would normally get some pretty bad wheel damage on iRacing. Gets on the grass as well through here.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
Not sure.
It's difficult to know. I mean, his steering looked like it was, like, at least from that onboard camera, his steering looked like it was pointed in the right direction for me. And then it seemed that, frankly, he tried to give that back marker a nudge in that corner and didn't quite pull it off and decided that was that. I mean, who knows? I may be judging that wrong, but yeah, it was unfortunate. There was a big speed difference between the two cars in the corner, and obviously Bradbury just didn't expect the back marker to still be there on exit. So. Well, so that's fortunate. That just leaves us with 3 Pro Gold runners at the front of the field now. Dadswell, Fletcher and Kataya. Still leading the Pro Silvers, though, are Alan Carraget. So that's actually 3 Porsches now in the top 4 overall spots. Patrick Gannon in second. Obviously, Gannon earlier on was really making progress forward, but he's still got a 4.8 second gap to Carraget in front if he wants to try and take that Pro Silver lead.
The other driver needs to try and get a little bit of a move on if he wants to go out in front of that Pro Silver category. But near the midfield of the Pro Silver category, we have got these 3 drivers here. Looks like Cole's is just behind McIntosh, and then Knudsen just behind them, third place at the moment in Pro Bronze. Pro Bronze is very split up in terms of where their drivers are out on circuit. Quite a few of the Pro Silver and then some of the lower running Pro Golds who have had incidents, separating the front runners in the Pro Bronze category, whereas the top 3 in Pro Gold and the top 6 in Pro Silver, all very close in terms of positions in the overall standings, but not in Pro Bronze. It's very interesting.
Yeah, like I say, it's 1, 2, 3, and 4 all kind of broken ahead of the rest of the Pro Bronze field. So that's interesting, as is this battle between Knudsen and McIntosh as they squabble down into that heavy braking zone of turn 5, but nothing quite doing that time by. So yeah, this I dare say is going to be a little grouping to continue to watch through the next few laps, as Broomfield now is the one that's trying to put Knudsen under pressure right underneath the rear wing as they come off that fast kink. Can Broomfield find a way down the inside? He's going to try and get it stopped in that McLaren under the brakes, and he does. He moves a spot forward in on track, but not in the class, of course, because he is in the Pro Gold class still. So yeah, Broomfield, I think the same as last week, Dane, the only McLaren runner, and yeah, he's been progressing his way up through the race. That's just saw highlighted for a second timing tower. I thought perhaps something had gone wrong with him, but everything looks good. He's still got that 6-second gap in front, and yeah, McIntosh next on the list for Broomfield as he continues to make his progress through these bronze and silver runners.
Just looking at Broomfield, very close to the Ferrari just in front, as yeah, the only McLaren driver, one of the cars that is very rarely used. It was quite tricky to drive for a very long time on iRacing. It has since been improved. It's not the easiest GT3 to drive, but certainly not impossible, as it was branded for quite some time over the last couple of years. But he had a pretty poor qualifying and has been making his way up through the field. So I think he was the driver who ran out of fuel at the end of the last race. So with just over 5 minutes left in this one, hopefully he won't suffer the same fate. He has done pretty well so far to try and improve on where he started. Caught up in a couple of those incidents near the start of the race as well, I believe, just getting held up. And, not the best night out, but still, since the points are based on your class, he will be getting points for 4, so not a bad evening out on the racetrack at all for him.
No, that's it. You gotta keep heading round and see what happens to your competitors. And obviously, we've seen a few of them fall away in the last sort of 10 laps or so. So that's gained those spots for him. Final 5 minutes now of a race. So that's kind of flown by really. Say 45-minute race, less than 5 minutes left. So just a couple of laps remaining, depending on where the leader crosses the line in relation to the checkered flag. Most of the field has just settled down a little bit now. I'm seeing kind of white gaps, which means more than 1 second for the majority of cars, but we've got a little battle going on here towards the kind of the 5th and 6th for the Pro Silver class. We've got kind of 15th and 16th overall as well, between sort of Faulkner, Cole, Broomfield that we were watching a minute ago, and then this battle here with Phil Reagan, who I saw was in pit lane before, so I think he's coming out on his out lap, if you like, and trying to get back up to speed, and yeah, he just gets past Odoms that time by. I'm seeing Adam Coles falling down the field. There we go, right on cue, recovering from the gravel. He was looking from the tyre tracks, did hit the wall, I think, so didn't manage to keep it out the wall. So Adam Coles, hopefully not too much damage, with a bit of luck for him, and he'll be able to continue on for his last few minutes. But yeah, currently 12th in that Pro Silver class in the Lamborghini Huracan.
Yeah, it looks like he carried on his way and didn't look like he had any damage to the side of his car at all. He did hit the wall completely side on, it seemed. So it might have been pretty lucky there and got slowed down quite a bit by the gravel in that runoff area. As, oh dear, that might be a very late commentator's curse, as Stephen Brumfield off at turn 1, spinning around, and a slight tap to the wall on the rear of his car. Still no damage though, it looks like, so should be able to carry on quite nicely with just over 3 minutes left in this race. But now the next car behind him is for position in Pro Gold. It's Adrianson. He's going to watch out a little bit, try not to make too many more mistakes before the end of the race, because Adrianson might just be able to catch up and make a sneaky move to gain 4th position in the Pro Gold category. As we are now looking at Benjamin Warburton. He's got a bit of a gap in front and a bit of a gap behind as well, sitting 6th place in Pro Silver and 9th place overall.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's had a pretty solid run. We've seen him involved in a few battles here and there, and he's managed to come out on top, but not the case for Phil Regan, who we just saw towing to pit lane as it cut away there. So not a great evening for Regan, but yeah, P6 for Warburton looking strong. He's been hanging with this kind of second main pack of cars for the majority of the race, and yeah, if he can continue on now for these last couple of laps, I dare say he should be pretty happy with that, as should Dave Erdin. So yeah, been really well and truly on top of the Pro Bronze class here today at Road America. He's a good sort of 15 seconds or so down the road from Kosh Kelly in 2nd of Pro Bronze, and Matt Knudsen, who we saw on screen a few minutes ago, in 3rd. So yeah, Dave Erdin just punching above his weight. You know, top 10 overall position, leader of the Pro Bronze class. Very, very nice indeed. I'm sure he'll be happy with that. Just having a little glance at the battle, or not the battle, but the progress of Patrick Gannon earlier on. Doesn't really look like he's managed to chip away enough at the Pro Silver lead for Alan Carraget. So looks like at the minute Patrick Gannon is going to be settling for that 2nd position in Pro Silver. But yeah, Scott Rister under close company at the minute in 3rd in Pro Silver. And Timothy Bray defending from a recovering Stephen Broomfield. And Broomfield trying to drive straight around the outside. Is Bray going to make much of a deal of this, trying to hang on to the inside? He does. He keeps his nose in. Broomfield has to give him the space, but should still get the drive off the corner, and then does manage to get that move made. So yeah, Timothy Bray currently running 4th in that Pro Bronze.
Yep, not battling for points at all this late in the race, with the last minute now on the clock, but just battling for fun at this stage in the race. And those two drivers having a pretty clean one there. Looked a bit sketchy through turn 1. It's obviously narrow circuit, then going too wide through turn 1. It can look very off-putting, but very nice move around the outside for Broomfield there to gain that position. It's not going to gain any points, like I said, but looked like a little bit of fun between those two drivers there, as we are heading towards the end of the 45 minutes, where on the circuit
at the beginning of the lap is Dadswell. Yeah, so the leaders have got almost a full lap to go, as they're kind of 0.2 of a lap round, if you like. So yeah, like I say, this will be the final lap. Dadswell just got that one more to complete. He has lost a bit of time in the last lap or so to Fletcher, lost kind of 2.5, 2 seconds or so, but it looks like everything is under control still. And I dare say it's looking pretty under control for really all of the top 10, with these kind of 1 second or more gaps between all the cars. So like we said, Dadwell has just been dominant all through the season so far. Race wins in Road Atlanta, Hungaroring 2 weeks ago, and it looks like tonight again here in Road America. Of course, we did have a couple of surprises last time out though, Dane, with people struggling for fuel at the last minute. So I mean, I guess we need to keep half an eye on the timing screen in case we see anyone suddenly falling down the order. But being that everybody kind of pretty much pitted on the same lap, majority of the field anyway, I guess we shouldn't have too many issues, but we'll keep an eye out. And yeah, Warburton here still running in that 6th position in silver, with Dave Erdin just behind in that Pro Bronze lead, keeping him close company.
It is a very good point, because you had the race run very close to finishing on that last lap, lap 21, but it is going to finish on lap 22.
Ooh,
not too sure who that was on the outside of that car.
Yeah.
As Dadswell to the end of the race final corner.
Yeah, so Tom Dadswell then, yeah, coming around the final corner, looking like he's got everything under control. Lights to flag win. Looked like he might have been under a little bit of pressure from Bradbury kind of early on and after pits, but in the end, nobody could challenge him. Tom Dadswell looking very, very happy as he comes over the line, and rightly so. Billy Fletcher then going to be coming across the line in 2nd, with Yusi Kataya in a few seconds' time will be coming in 3rd. Let's have a look at Alan Carraget, yeah, winner of the Pro Silver class. He should be very pleased as well. Again, he looked well under control all the way through the race. Patrick Gannon then going to be finishing in second in Pro Silver, with Scott Rister in third. So again, that looks pretty solid all round. Here comes Dave Erdin for that Pro Bronze lead, just hanging off Robert Lancaster over the line. But then Kosh Kelly in second and Matt Knudsen in third for Pro Bronze. Not seeing anyone kind of falling down the timing tower at the last second, so that's good news all around for fuel usage. But yeah, that's our podium finishers for each class already over the line. We'll have another minute or so, I'm sure, of cars completing that final lap and getting over. But should be lots of happy drivers out there, Dane. We had those podiums looked pretty kind of locked in for a little while for most of those classes, and otherwise, yeah, good battles through the majority of the rest of the field. Obviously, we had those few incidents kind of early on, and an otherwise a solid race again, as we've seen through the rest of the season.
Yeah, we did see some pretty good racing out there for the most part. Again, a couple of incidents, maybe a few more than usual this round, but like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, it is to be expected here at Road America. It does invite those type of incidents, with the grass very close on the outside, it being a narrow circuit, and the walls really close to the circuit as well. It is always going to happen. I don't think I've ever seen a fully clean race here at Road America before. Waiting for the last couple of drivers to come across the line up the huge hill. It doesn't look very big from the exterior cameras, but that one particular shot up the hill, massive hill, just before the start-finish line. I would also like to point out one thing. Kosh Kelly's picture here on the SDK system, I think he had a snake on the side of his head, on his headphones. I'm not sure if it was a real snake or not, but just something that caught my eye as he was crossing the line.
Yes, I believe, it definitely looked like a snake, yeah, on the side of his head for sure. Yeah, so just waiting for the last odd car to get over the line, but yeah, that was round 3 here from Road America. It gives us a quick opportunity to thank our sponsors again of the FindingSpeed GT3 League. First up is Asetek SimSports. So Asetek SimSports Invicta pedals are for the competitive gamer and racing enthusiast who wants an immersive sim racing experience. The Invicta pedals have a hydraulic brake cylinder and a proper clutch bite point, and that differentiates them from other manufacturers by having a true life feel and an intuitive setup, all to give you the best and most realistic racing experience of driving on a real circuit. You can find out more about Asetek SimSports at aseteksimsports.com. as a little bit of a helping hand is given throughout the field to help them over the back to the pit lane on their warm down lap as they head back through. Thank you also to our other sponsor for the series, Apex Racing Academy. Apex Racing Academy provides data packs for over 29 road and rallycross cars. Those include setup files, OLAP, BLAP files, replay files. You have access to track guides, VRS integration is available, one-to-one driver coaching and group coaching as well. You can find out more about Apex Racing Academy at apexracingac.com. Right, so let's have a little look at our final race results, as we saw a solid under control victory for Tom Daswell, leading lights to flag, taking a 3.2 gap over Billy Fletcher in the end in second. Yusa Kataya then in third, with Stephen Broomfield in fourth, Jensen Edgenson's in fifth, and Ted Bradbury having an unfortunate incident towards the end. Was challenging for the race lead, finished sixth in class in the end, and then Dominicus Yufasea having an incident halfway through the race or so, finishing seventh in class. Then on to our Pro Silver field, Alan Carraget in first, with Patrick Gannon in second, Scott Rister in third, with Anthony Beck fourth, Steven Van Nguyen in fifth, Benjamin Warburton sixth, Robert Lancaster in seventh, Dara Edgensons in eighth, Christian Volkner got to ninth in the end of his progress from the back of the field, Jaco Boshoff in 10th, Jim McIntosh in 11th, Adam Coles 12th, Brack Crouch in 13th, and then all other drivers finished one lap or more down. We saw Kaya have his issues just towards the end. And then in the Pro Bronze class, David Erdin took that win by a comfortable margin, like 16 seconds over Kosh Kelly, the next runner in second. Then Matt Knudsen in third. Timothy Bray, current championship leader, managing to climbed through the field after a poor qualifying, finishing in 4th. Kansas Gentry then in 5th with Alex Peck in 6th. Robert Odems in 7th with Angel Pedrero in 8th. Carlos Espada in 9th. Steve Brown in 10th. Luke Davis in 11th. Colin McKenzie 12th. And Dan Ocaranza in 13th. All the other runners had issues a little bit further down the field as well. So that was our race results here at Road America for FindingSpeed GT3 League. Like we said, Dane, good job overall from the drivers. It was a full field out there, 40 plus cars. They got the job done, a couple of incidents here and there, but the main thing is not having a huge incident in the opening lap and wiping out half the field,
Yeah, the opening few laps are really impressively clean. It did kind of get a little bit hectic in, say, lap 4 or 5, but for the most part, the race was very clean. We didn't see too many. See quite a few good battles going on, and I'm really looking forward to next week's round. So we only have a 1 week break for these 2 rounds. It's Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit. It is quite possibly one of my least favorite circuits on iRacing, but in GT3 cars it usually does provide some pretty good racing, so I can't wait to see how that one goes.
Yeah, like I say, it's maybe not the kind of the most drivable circuit if you're trying to do like hot lapping and that sort of stuff perhaps, but yeah, it does tend to provide us some good racing in these GT cars. So yeah, that'll be in 2 weeks. In fact, that'll be next week. So normally we have a 2 week gap each time, but the road for Nurburgring, that will be next Saturday. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll have our final round from Suzuka. So yeah, that'll be same time again next week then, 8:30 UK time. And we'll be looking forward to seeing everyone back and seeing how the championship standings have been affected between those different classes after those race results. So that'll be good to see for sure. Thank you to Dane Baird for being alongside us in commentary, Samuli Kumo on production, and we'll be pleased to see everybody again next week at Nurburgring.